Hi, everybody. My name is Amy. I've seen a lot of you here before. I'm part of the GrowthZone marketing team, and we are absolutely thrilled to have Kyle Sexton, author and speaker, with us today. Before we get started, I need to go over just a few housekeeping items. I manage our social media presence here at GrowthZone, and you can find us everywhere from Facebook to Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them. So we actually try to leverage our social media platforms to share free resources with association and chamber professionals. So whether it's blog posts, articles, webinars, research papers, it's helpful. If it's helpful to membership professionals, we put it out there. Hello to all of our customers. We are glad to have you. For those of you that are not familiar with GrowthZone, welcome. I encourage you to join one of our online group demos. You can see our homepage if you go to growthzone.com, and it couldn't be any more clear. We have multiple buttons there for online group demo, or if you want a one-on-one, that's just great. And give you a chance to see our management software in action. So go to growthzone.com, and I'll also try to share that link in the chat section during the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, so everyone that registered is going to receive an email with the recording, regardless of whether or not they attended. So anyone that signed up, going to get the recording. If you're on and you need to jump off, don't worry, you're going to get the recording along with the slide deck. So hopefully that should land in your inbox in the next 24 hours. We have to process it and get it all prettied up. So some exciting news. 5 of today's attendees are going to be randomly selected to receive a complimentary pass to Kyle's course called Chamber Mission Met. We'll be notifying the winners in the next couple of days, and he's going to tell you once he gets started a little bit about it. If you have questions or comments, feel free to submit them in the chat panel. We'll try to have a Q&A session towards the end and answer what we can. There's always so many great questions, we don't necessarily get to every single one. So what we do in that case is we send them to Kyle, and he is kind enough to answer them and get back in touch with the people or go through us and send group answers. So if we don't get to you, don't worry, we will get you an answer, it just won't be right away. A little bit about Kyle. He is an award-winning marketing strategist and speaker, and he's an authority on membership development, technology integration, and marketing and innovation, of course. He thrives on empowering organizations to leverage their unique stories and their messaging. He's a veteran marketer. He's only 28 years old, but he has 23 years of experience. His books and presentations have actually helped thousands of membership professionals over those 23 years cultivate successful strategies and tactics to grow their organizations. He is the author of Remembership, as well as Follow You Anywhere. And he also hosts a podcast called Trajectory. You can find more details about those resources at kylesexton.com. And so without further ado, please join me in welcoming Kyle Sexton.
Hey, thank you, Amy. What a great pleasure it is to be with everybody. This is a very exciting topic because you've got opportunity in front of you to capture your event revenue from sponsors, even without events. So I'm so excited about this. Let me make sure I'm connected to the right thing here. So uno momento. Skip out of that. I am using a new technology today. Check this out. Ooh, fancy. Ooh, fancy. I'd like to thank GrowthZone for inviting me back. We've had some record-breaking attendance at these webinars, and I think the reason is that the folks at GrowthZone are so in tune with the needs of their associations and chambers of commerce. And so Today, we're going to focus on how to keep the revenue from your sponsorships, even without events. So we had a couple of names that were thrown around for this program, one of which was what your event sponsors want. But what about a 2021 that doesn't have any events? There's a lot of concern. And I've spent so much time on the phone with association and chamber execs across the US and Canada. And the struggle is real, okay? You're not in this alone. I want to get to your questions. I want to throw a few ideas at you about this. I'm really excited about what's possible for you in pivoting our mindset around what sponsors want. So we're going to start by talking about what they want and the drivers of value in sponsorship. There are 4 key aspects that drive value in sponsorship. So this isn't what sponsors want yet. This is what drives the value, okay? So they want to be positioned in the community. They want to be positioned in your organization. Maybe they want to be positioned next to their competitors. They also are interested in perception. And this is all about how you as an organization are demonstrating your values in your market, in your association, your chamber of commerce, in your community, and how they are perceived by aligning next to you, okay? One of the key drivers of value in sponsorship is scarcity, and that's different than membership. It's different than advertising too, because in membership, we want something that scales. We want mass exposure. We don't want to limit we don't want to create any scarcity when we want abundance. So, but sponsorships, what makes them valuable is the fact that there's not an infinite amount of them. And it's that exclusivity, that scarcity, the scarcity is what drives that value up. So there's not so many. We can sell out on sponsorships way before we sell out on tickets to the event. So the scarcity is a key driver. Now, there's a lot of ways to create scarcity. We're used to doing it with a limited number of available sponsorships. But you can also create scarcity where you open it up to all comers up to a certain date. And so that's something that a lot of marketers use. I use that regularly to create scarcity even when there's abundance. And so having a limited time or having a deadline, and I'm foreshadowing here, I'm doing a little storytelling with you because I'm going to share with you a couple of deadlines that are looming as opportunities for you later at the end of this program. I want you to know too that I am not planning to take a whole hour of your time. I want to leave plenty of room for questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat or in the Q&A bar there, and Amy will gather some like questions at the end. And yes, again, this is being recorded. So the 4th driver of value in sponsorship is exclusivity. And a lot of times it's industry exclusivity. When I see a lot of chamber banquets and I go to a lot of awards banquets where there's one financial institution that's listed as a possible sponsor. So when they take any of those key the title sponsor, the presenting sponsor, whatever, no others in that industry can be a sponsor. So that's another driver of the value of sponsorship, is that exclusivity. So next we want to talk about the role of sponsorship in a membership organization, in a membership structure. And if this is your first Kyle Sexton webinar presentation, then I wanted to introduce you to what we call the map to remembership. And I'm going to give you the 3-minute version of the map to remembership. Because we just want to talk about where sponsors are and how that's different from other investments like advertising. Sponsors are aspirational in how they view the role of your organization and how they view their role in partnering with you. They want to get something done through their membership. The really cool thing that we've tapped into about the sponsor mindset and about aspirational, transformational, and idealistic member investors is this idea. I want you to embrace this right here. Aspirational investors, including sponsors, are willing to invest more than the sum of the transactional benefits. I'm going to say that again. Aspirational investors and sponsors are willing to invest more than the sum of the transactional benefits. So if you want to go sell transactional benefits to people who are looking for eyeballs, we're talking about advertisers. But the key things that make advertising and sponsorship different is that sponsors, when we do it right, we're tapping into the aspirational desires. They want to get something done with you, through you, because of you. Advertisers don't show up with their ad, but sponsors show up with their sponsorship. They want to engage, they want to attend, they want to participate, they want to create the experience, they want to create an experience with you. Advertisers are masked from a distance. And so it's a remote activity. And advertising has so much competition that it drives value down. But when you add scarcity and exclusivity and positioning and perception to a sponsorship opportunity, it drives the value up. And so many organizations that I work with, when we start, there seems to be a cloudy line between a cloudy, like, gray area between sponsorship and advertising. They're selling sponsorship in the same way that they sell advertising. Stop it. Time out. Your sponsorship, the value drivers are different. Advertisers want mass, okay? So I want to share with you some how we're going to move through old model versus almost new model versus the 3.0. For several years now, I've been teaching sponsorship 2.0 in places like the Institute for Organization Management, run by the U.S. Chamber Foundation. And in the sponsorship 2.0, we look at the difference between the old event run model and then the new event model. And now I want to talk about sponsorship 3.0, which is all about initiatives. So events, man, that is so 2019, but programs have already moved into virtual. And I want you to keep thinking about how you're creating virtual programs and how you're highlighting your sponsors. And who knows, maybe at the end of this, maybe somebody will ask me, Kyle, what is the program that you're using to keep so much engagement and actually put yourself into the presentation? Because in your virtual programs, you can be engaging people differently and highlighting sponsors because you're captivating people's attention differently with your virtual programs. So the initiatives are what I want to ultimately get to. And I told you we're going to race to the content here and in the with this 3.0 concept. But sponsorship 1.0 looks a little bit like this. You're familiar with it. You've seen it a million times. The title sponsor, the presenting sponsor, the major sponsor, and the supporting sponsors. Maybe you've got some benefactors in there, or maybe you've got something else. But that's so 2019. Let's move to the next one. Sponsorship 2.0 looks a little bit different. You've got table sponsors where people are not just buying tickets of 8 here, people. We've got to think differently about table sponsorship when events come back. It's not just buying a table of 8 gets you a table sponsor. Sponsor a table and host it with you and one other person from your business and maybe your spouse or spouse. Yes, I said spouse or spouse. It's really important that that your spouse and your spouse do not meet each other. That's a joke. That's a joke. Sometimes the jokes are just for me. All right. So, but the table sponsor idea is not about sponsoring a table for you and your employees to be at. It is about engaging people and making them your guests. So something to own. Charging station sponsor, something to own. A wine sponsor, get your brand on the label, something to own. Photo booth sponsor, create an experience with people. Hand them their photos or email them their photos with information about your company. These are experiential. Give people something to own, where everybody is a title sponsor of something. You've got the overarching events. All right, so I'm preaching to the choir on this one. You all know how this works. Moving on. Here's what I really want to get to talking about. And this is where, if you have questions, I want you to go ahead and type them in as you're thinking about ideas and opportunities for your organization to capitalize on moving from events, we don't know, we just don't know if we're going to have them, to initiatives. Because your association representing your industry, or your chamber of commerce representing your community, has needs. Your membership has serious needs right now, and they want to support you. Okay, think back to go back and look at the drivers of value. Not any of the drivers of value were putting butts in seats. So I want you to reimagine. Your awards banquet is about demonstrating your values in the community. One of your values is helping people who need help, especially your businesses. So one of the things we're seeing really successful out there right now in local communities and industry-wide associations is the idea of a business recovery sponsor. I know it seems like doom and gloom. It's not. There are businesses who are doing extremely well, and they are feeling very charitable. And we've got to tap into that, because I know what you're going to do with the money, and it is good stuff, and your community needs it. Okay, this isn't about sponsorship just for fundraising. This is about sponsorship to make some shit happen. Let's make it happen. So Business Recovery Sponsor is one of those initiatives that you could start that is going to attract attention in a different way. And when you approach your investors, your sponsors, and you say, look, it's not looking good for our event. And then look, the hospital, the healthcare, they've already come to you and said, we're not going to sponsor any in-person events in 2020 or in 2021. Forget about it. It's not going to be good PR for us. All right. So that ship has already sailed. And if you watched my free video series on kylesexton.com called Replace Your Event Revenue, that's kylesexton.com/for-revenue. You can watch that video series. You already got a highlight. You already got a preview of what I'm talking about here. When the healthcare companies and the hospital systems tell you that they're not going to sponsor in-person events, it makes it very difficult for you to continue those events. So you've got education programs. You're doing stuff with youth. You're an industry association. You're promoting manufacturing, or you're promoting professional development, and you're in financial literacy, whatever it is. You can create scholarships for youth around this area. Now, for the last 2 years in local chambers of commerce, we've been talking about economic development a little bit differently. It's all about talent and workforce, talent recruitment and workforce readiness. Here's the big idea when it comes to scholarship presenting sponsors and attracting your community around a different kind of scholarship initiative. Are you ready? Are you ready? Stop sending our kids, our best talent, out of state, out of the area. If you're going to create sponsorship programs that keep your kids local. Have them go to the sponsor scholarship for the community college, scholarship for the university that's 20 minutes away, scholarship for the college that's under a 90-minute drive. Let's keep our talent local. It's a big shift. I was talking with some small town chambers of commerce in Iowa 2 years ago. And that's where they said they were experimenting with this, and they were getting huge positive feedback when it came to attracting scholarship sponsors to kick in money, to provide sponsorships, to deliver. In chambers of commerce, you do a lot of ribbon cuttings. Associations, you do PR events. When you deliver a scholarship, let's bring the parade, man. Let's get some eyeballs on that and create content with it, because in the content, you can get that sponsored. And you can use screen technology to do live broadcasts that have your sponsors all listed there. You can put it on the lower third in a record, and when you share the recording later. And so this is the big idea when it comes to scholarship and tying scholarships to both workforce and talent. Let's keep our talent here. Let's not send our money and our kids far away. Okay? All right. You get that? Yeah, I get a little fired up on these topics, y'all. All right. There's no shortage of great hero stories coming out of COVID. And there's a great opportunity for you to make examples out of the people that you think have really stepped up. And I know it's hard to pick because you have so many to choose from which to choose, but that's a good problem to have. There's so many companies who want to associate themselves with positive social currency and with leadership and with courage. Courage is a big one, y'all. Reframing your leadership awards. Think about your awards programs entirely differently. Think about your awards as content, not as banquet. Okay? Think about your awards as champions throughout the year, not chamber chicken. Okay? Not a chicken dinner. We want beautiful people, not buffets. All right, you get it. I'm running out of comparisons. All right, here's a great one. Again, doesn't need an event. This is about the mission. It's about the spirit of your town or the spirit of your industry. You don't need an event to tell stories like this. Typically, we've had banquets to drive people to talk about the spirit of volunteerism or first citizens or citizen of the year, or people who are doing good things. We want to drive people to the event. But I'm here to tell you that the margins on that event for you financially, not what you thought it was when you attach all the staff time to it. If you were to pivot that to content, you win, because the margins are going to be so significantly different. You're not paying for meals. You're driving content. This is content that lives forever on your website, hopefully on your blog, not because I said it needs to be on your blog, but because Google says it needs to be on your blog. If you have any questions about that, feel free to email me, kyle@kylesexton.com, or pop it in the chat over there. Kyle, tell us more about why our content, especially our sponsored content, should go on our blog first, because I'd love your permission to talk a little bit deeper about that. It's just a little bit off topic, and then finally, the mission sponsor. What the heck is a mission sponsor? Well, it's something I made up. You see, we were in so many associations and chambers, we were grappling with the idea that a business would invest $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, $11,000, $15,000 for a one evening event, a 3-hour event on a Thursday evening that has 450 people in attendance, and then that was the end of the conversation. Okay, good night, everybody. We'll see you next year. When you can attach what you're trying to accomplish in your events back to your mission and say, we hold the event because this value that we hold, this internal value that we have, is part of our mission, then why not skip it, right? If we don't know we're going to be able to have events this year anyway, let's keep on doing that thing, and let's create a different way to convey the content with a mission sponsorship. All right, so how do we deploy a mission sponsorship? You define your brand characteristics, and you find sponsors or previous event sponsors who want to attach themselves to that brand characteristic or that value that you have. You create content around that value, videos, interviews, panels online, articles, blogs, emails. Like, let's get this content created. Let's create content. Let's also curate content from other places that you didn't have to write, right? I think the right mix of content for you should be half created and half curated from other sources. Okay, so when you're clear about what your mission is and you can attach sponsors to that, then you've got people who are underwriting your mission, and they're investing in your ability to tell stories about how you accomplish that mission in your industry or in your community. All right, so I hope that gives you some good ideas about how to keep your sponsors that you already have good relationships with. But I want to share with you a couple of more concepts as you think and rethink about how to roll something new out in your association or your chamber. Because the law of diffusion of innovations is pretty clear about who will and who won't jump on board with your new thing. Okay, so if you're thinking that you're going to promote something to everybody all at once, hey, we've got these new sponsorship opportunities, you might be disappointed. That's the sort of thing that we do with advertising, and you get the same people over and over again who say, yeah, we'll renew, but you don't get a lot of new traction. All right, so this idea in the law of diffusion of innovations is very clear about who will. We want to go approach early adopters. There's some characteristics about the early adopters that are different than the rest of the folks that you might approach. The difference is that the early adopters don't need it to be finished and polished and pretty. They don't need the full presentation to be ready. That's for the early majority and the late majority. They need it to be finished and polished and pretty. The early adopters want to help you craft it. And there's that saying in fundraising, if they write it, they will underwrite it. If they write it, they will underwrite it. So we want to go to our early adopters and say, will you help us write this? Help us create this. Because it follows my dad rule. Every time I asked my dad for money, I got advice. Kyle, you should be better with your money. The answer is no. But every time you ask your dad for advice, you get money. How sweet is that? So go ask for advice from your early adopters, and let's get people engaged in what you're actually building. That's a way to engage your sponsors maybe differently than you ever have before. Okay, so the early majority, they need things to be ready. They need people to have already jumped on. They need social proof. They need testimonials. Okay, and the late majority, they need it to be, they want to be able to call somebody who's been using it for years and get it to ask them. They don't want to call the 800 number for tech support or service. Okay, all right, so that's a little bit about early adopters, but now let's talk a little bit more tactically about some prospects. All right, so your existing event sponsors, we've already talked about this. If you are going to roll out some initiative-based programs and sponsorship opportunities, and you don't give your existing sponsors a heads up that you're doing it, you might have some bridges to mend later on. Okay, so instead of don't do the big mass thing, but do maintain a good working positive relationship with your current sponsor investor members, so that you can respect their investment that they've made into your organization for years. Okay, but the other areas where we see great prospects is anybody who's growing, and it's not been too hard to find the businesses who are growing during a pandemic economy because they stick out like a sore thumb. But you know who they are. Anybody who's hiring, they are a great prospect. And why on earth would they be a sponsorship prospect? Well, you ever see these stadiums, not just the big stadiums that are sponsored by big companies, but you ever see there's regional stadiums? I go to small towns in the South, and we got the baseball stadium that only sees 2 games a week, but at home, but they've got a heck of a sponsor, local employer sponsor. We're talking about the tire shop. We're talking about all the small local businesses that sponsor the stadium. It's for their employees. It's so they can tell their employees that they are into supporting with not just their mouth, but their money, a positive place in the community for families to gather. So that's why employers want to sponsor things. Also, some people believe that sponsorship is part of their marketing. I'm one of those. Sponsorship is part of your marketing, but it's not just marketing for the sake of marketing. It's marketing to tell a story. And it's much easier to tell a story about your values when you can give real life examples about how you invest your money in the community and tell stories about that, about why you care about that in the community. So think about that. Growing employers, anybody who's hiring might be a great prospect for potential sponsorship of your new non-event initiatives. All right. So also think about service providers. We sometimes call these associate members of your association, where if you've got a manufacturers association, the service providers would be vendors. Okay, it's the contract machine shop. It's a place that's not in your immediate industry to serve, but they provide services and supplies to your main industry. Also consider professional services, which are also technically service providers. But think about the accountants, the insurance brokers, the financial institution, the banks, the credit unions. Think about if you've got an association of realtors, think about the title companies, think about mortgage brokers and mortgage bank companies, local, regional, national, doesn't matter. They're all potential prospects. So think about the affiliate, associate members that support and also do a lot of business with your primary members. All right, so we are just about to wrap up the main portion of the content. I see that we've got a ton of comments and questions over there, and hopefully Amy can help me with all of that. But before we do, we want to get to your questions, but I want to share with you that link one more time. The Replace Your Event Revenue with Forever Revenue is a free video training that I created for y'all about 2-3 weeks ago. And that's what this content is, really a lot deeper dive. What you're seeing today right now is a lot deeper dive than you get in the Replacing Your Event Revenue with Forever Revenue, because there are 3 ways that you can grow. You can grow either with more transactions, you can grow with more members, or you can grow with more dollars per member. And replacing your event revenue with for revenue, you like that? I made up a word. Forever Revenue, for revenue, kylesexton.com/for-revenue. You'll learn a little bit more in depth about the difference between transactional selling right now and driving more value, replacing your event revenue forever, well, until it comes back. But you can replace it in the short term with forever revenue so that when it comes back, you are more profitable as an organization. And I love it when your organization, association makes more money, because I see what you do with it. You invest it back into programming, you pay your people better, and all that. So you know what you do with the money. These are all great stories to tell. And that is a free, those are 5-minute videos, each of them in Replacing Your Event Revenue program. All right. The other thing I want to share with you that I've got coming up, and tomorrow is actually the last day to apply for it. So you'll have an opportunity at the end of that video training program to hear a little bit more about the Chamber Think Blueprint. But a week from today, we're doing a nationwide build day. Pick your nation. I know we got folks in the US and Canada on the call today, but nationwide build day is at kylesexton.com/blueprint, where we are talking about this stuff and more, because all of this is about driving, this entire conversation is to stop being reliant upon events for your revenue. Let's get higher margin revenue through through membership, and everybody wants to talk about non-dues revenue. There's one reason that non-dues revenue exists is because you suck at dues. So we got to get your primary source of revenue, your membership revenue, to function in a scalable way that takes advantage of these drivers of sponsorship without the exclusivity and scarcity. So the unlimited upside of the Chamber Think Blueprint is happening. Super excited about that. Amy already mentioned that 5 people who attended today live, not the people who didn't attend live, but the people who attended live are going to be entered into win the Chamber Mission Met Strategic Planning course. And I also wanted to let you know that we're doing on November 19th, we're doing a program, Eric Ryan and I, Eric of Mission Met, formerly Ryan Nonprofits. He's got 20 years working with small nonprofits. We're going to talk about engaging your board and get your mission met. We're building a strata day so that your board members can engage in your strategy on November 19th. But what I'm super excited about is that 5 of you today are going to get the strategic planning course, which also includes short-term action planning. It's also called crisis planning training, where you got 90 minutes with Eric and I on that particular aspect of the course alone. So super excited about that coming up. And you'll hear, if you're on my list, you're going to hear more about the Engaging Your Board event happening on November 19th. All right, so I promised you that we wouldn't do a full hour of Kyle talking because I want to get to your questions, and holy mackerel. Amy, can I get some help on the questions? Because there's a bunch of them.
Absolutely. I'm sort of like Vanna White, the letter turner up here.
You've been watching them.
All right. Okay, before we get into the questions about the actual content, everyone wants to know what you are using to present and about your cool new framing thing, technology. So if you could answer that, a lot of people would be really happy.
We got 382 questions on that one thing, and then there's a few other questions.
You laugh.
If you dig this, your sponsors are going to dig it too. And look, there's my logo right there. There's GrowthZone's logo. So what is it, Kyle? It is, I've been a fan of Prezi for years. Amy, you know that all my presentations that I've done with GrowthZone have been Prezi since 2013. But this is something different. This is Prezi Video. This uses the Prezi Next technology, and it replaces the background image with video. And wouldn't you know it, they raced to build this, and they released it in May of this year. So holy smokes, I hope this is something that you can use. As I mentioned, I've been using Prezi exclusively since 2013. I love the platform. In 2017, they came out with Prezi Next. I still use Prezi Classic and Prezi Next, but Prezi Next is what you want to use because you can import any of your presentations that you create in Prezi Next into Prezi Video, and Prezi Video integrates with all of your streaming broadcasting software. So you can either use Prezi Video to record a video like this and save it to your system and upload it to YouTube, etc. There's features that do that exactly, or you can use it for live streaming just like this. And some of you are using StreamYard, and that allows you to put some graphics on there, but it doesn't do what Prezi does. Holy smokes. So, all right. I know a bunch of you wanted to know that one. It's slick.
A lot of people actually did. They really did. Everybody's going to jump off now. I'm kidding.
I baited them all into that question. Please, I hope somebody asks that question.
Yeah, I know. There are a lot of questions, and I hope we can get to most of them. But again, if we don't get to the question, we will have some sort of follow-up where Kyle will weigh in and let us know his thoughts on these things, and we will get that information to you. So also, let's see, one of the questions that came in fairly specific was a couple of people asked about golf tournaments. And one thing I will share at the risk of just sounding self-serving is on growthzone.com, we actually do have a content piece that our support and training team put together on how to host a touch-free golf tournament. So that's available
It's a
in the
great
Knowledge
article.
Library.
It's a
Yeah,
great resource that y'all put together.
they did a great
Mhm.
job. And Kyle will complement that with the answer on how to handle sponsorships with that. But I do encourage you to check that out.
Yeah, I think engage your sponsors and how they and how they want to participate in your sponsorship. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to facilitate the solution. So there are many chambers that I know of who have already done this. In fact, one of my chamber mission met students in Farmers Branch, Texas, Grace. I don't know, Grace might even be on the call today. Grace was like the first in the country to successfully do a golf tournament touch free. So it's being done. Tap into your industry or association peers who are doing this. Make sure you review that the steps in GrowthZone on GrowthZone's blog about doing it. Everything that you need is right there. But I got to tell you, your members want to get out. They are dying to get out and do stuff. So make sure that you are considering the situation. Make sure that all of the media that goes out at your event is sensitive to the fact that it wouldn't look good for your business community or for your association if, while everybody else is suffering through a pandemic, that you're out having a great old day of golf, not wearing a mask. So be mindful of that, be responsible with it. We all got to beat COVID together. You don't do it by disregarding the advice of experts, no matter how people are feeling in your particular industry or community. Do the right thing. Be a leader. And go golf. I'm a basketball player, so I'm dying.
You could have a basketball tournament. I'm sure if anybody could figure out a
Six
way,
feet,
it would be Kyle Sexton.
6 feet
You could play
distance.
horse. You
That's
play
the
horse.
worst defense ever.
Well, man to man, I don't know. Zone. Okay.
So everything is
So that's zone. All right.
sports talk.
There have been some questions about networking, particularly in the association space, and replacing those events, along with the sponsorships. And if you have any advice or anything that you've heard, success stories in that arena, particularly for associations.
I have a great idea for you. I haven't seen it pulled off in this short amount of time, but I have a great idea for you to replace networking. So people want to meet new people when they network. They don't necessarily just want to spend time with people they already know. And so it's about creating the pathway to positive business relationships. That's what networking is. But in a lot of communities and organizations, networking is not working because there's so much competition. I believe that networking is what happens when you get people together for some other purpose. Okay, networking is what happens when you get people together for some other purpose. I call it windshield time. When you're all looking through the same windshield at the same time, you tend to talk about things in a non-threatening way, or to present yourself in a way that is not so obviously, I want to do business with you. And so that's a real advantage. When it comes to connecting people on the pathway that they previously called networking, think about organizing a matchmaking event virtually. In the chamber world, we used to do this in person with a program called Connect for Lunch. It would match people up with people that they hadn't met before, and they would all get together at a restaurant for lunch. But I saw the coolest matchmaking event that could be virtual for you in Nashville several years ago. Nashville Chamber of Commerce held a buyers event. Now, a lot of state governments will hold a buyers event where they take all of the buyers from their state agencies, including the universities, et cetera, and they hold this public event where you can sign up for time to present to make a presentation to a buyer or a group of buyers on your product or service so that they can choose to buy local. So a buyer's event or a matchmaking event could nothing's really easy these days, but if you have the imagination and the creativity and you think the demand is there, consider doing a matchmaking event. And the matchmaking event would have maybe some content like this, where you would spend some time, 30 minutes perhaps, where everybody's in talking about the same content, where you are being a host of the virtual meeting, giving instructions to people as they participate. And then you've previously already made matches. And so you're going to have virtual rooms. Everybody has their own room. So I matched up with Matthew. We're meeting in Matthew's virtual room. I have Matthew's link right there. We're meeting at 4:55 p.m. We have a 15-minute window to do our conversation, and then at 5:10 there's a 5-minute break, and at 5:15 I'm meeting with Bethany, and we're meeting in my virtual room, and we keep it this way. So I have attended conferences that have breakouts that are constructed this way. I've attended trade shows that are essentially on a web page with a video of the exhibitor and a link right into their live room where I can talk to a person who's like standing in the virtual booth. So if you reimagine it, you can make it happen. If you're looking for more ideas, feel free to reach out to me. Those are the ones that come to mind right off the top of my head.
I had a little brainstorm because I have the luxury of seeing the chat and listening to Kyle. So a couple of people have commented and shared that they licensed some meeting software that facilitated some one-on-one first-time meetings. And then other people have talked about that they've included in their sponsorship sponsor videos at the beginning of events. And additionally, some people are talking about content. And so if it was just like a conference and you had something, where you had an expert like Kyle, but, in your industry or in your community to share content that's relevant to everyone, but you had your sponsor in the middle of it or at the beginning or both, do a small, 60-second, 90-second presentation, and then use breakout rooms, which we've done before on Zoom, whether it's with 2 people or 50 people, you could make that work. So that's Amy's suggestion from her cube. All right.
Love that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wow, that's a great one. So another question that came in, I've got about 1 million screens open here. Let's see here. Were some questions about the scholarships and percentages and success stories, just in general. You were talking a little bit about keeping the kids local, and additionally about, maybe it's not about keeping them local, but keeping them interested in your industry, and also mid-career educational scholarships, which I thought was a great idea as well for those who are looking to expand their knowledge or take on something new. And so I think they were just hoping that you could touch on that a little bit more about cost, how you do it, forms, things like that.
Great question. So there's a ton of different ways that you can do it, but right off the bat, I can tell you that I think the United Way fundraising approach is going to be useful in a scenario like this. The United Way fundraising approach is to have pillar investors that support the overhead of the organization, so that monthly contributors, monthly donors to United Way, 100% of that money can go directly to the organizations that United Way is sponsoring in that fiscal year. I'll tell you who else does a really good job of this is Charity Water. Charity Water has sponsors they have donors who essentially cover the entire infrastructure of Charity Water, so that when you make your $125 donation to Charity Water on your birthday, or people do that for you as a gift to you, you can you can be assured that all $125 of that is going to build wells in in developing countries where the children have previously had to go fetch water for 5 hours a day instead of being in school. So the same concept can apply in terms of funding your scholarships. We got to have somebody who's willing to sponsor the scholarship program overall, so that when you go solicit direct participation in providing scholarship money, that you could tell them that 100% of this money is going directly into scholarships. So I don't want you to think necessarily that keeping 15% of all sponsorship contributions as an admin fee is the only way that you can do it. But that is how some people do it. I think that if you can make a long-term scholarship play, you're doing it because you've got somebody sponsoring the overall program, and that's providing you some net revenue to the organization, so that you can assure each individual contributing scholarship sponsor that 100% of their dollars are going towards scholarships. And I think if that money is staying local, for you chambers out there, I think if that money is staying local, you will make a big difference in how the local colleges and universities view you.
That's a great answer. We have a lot of questions, but two more I definitely think that would be great to get to while everyone's on. And I know that Kyle is a bit of an expert on this, and while I'm not an expert, I do a lot. Talking about blogging, and should associations and or chambers be blogging, but why should they be blogging? And I have 3 letters to say to that, and then I'll hand it off to Kyle. SEO. All right, Kyle.
Yeah.
I mean, search engine optimization. That's what it means.
It's not Amy and I that are saying you should be using a blog. It's Google saying that you should be using a blog, right? Here's the deal. Google has already indexed every page on your website, but when you post on your blog, Google reads that as a new page. The more pages you have on your website, the more opportunity you have to rank for keywords or phrases. I'm going to say that again. The more pages you have on your website, the more opportunities you have to rank for keywords or phrases. Why have a blog? Because every blog is a new page. But a blog isn't a thing that you have to do. Hear me on this one, you guys. A blog is not something you have to do. A blog is a place to put the things you've already done. So that newsletter that has a 28% open rate, what happens to the other 72% of people who are on your list that if they don't open it? They're never going to see that content, because that content's never going to see the light of day. Each article in your newsletter, you got 5 different articles in your newsletter that goes out. Each one of those articles is a blog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So your newsletter is a digest of content that you're also putting on your blog, because Google will index it there. Why do you want them to index it? Because people are typing in questions, or they're asking their Amazon device, or they're asking their Google device these questions, or Siri, they're asking the questions, and you have answers. Google doesn't know to serve you up as a solution provider or an answerer of people's questions if you're not answering questions in the place that they need you to answer questions. So put all your content on your blog. You can put it on other pages too, but a blog is an RSS feed, a syndication device that allows your content to go lots of other places. Google wants you to put it there because they know that's where you're going to put the fresh new stuff. So don't be the last one shutting off the lights on your website and your organization, your mission. A blog is not a thing that you have to do. A blog is a place to put the things that you're already doing. Put a video there, put your podcast there, put an article there, put your newsletter there, put everything that you're putting out on the blog.
You could even have a sponsor for the blog.
You could have a sponsor for the blog?
You could have a sponsor write a guest blog. So there's that. But Google does love fresh content. That's their favorite. And another thing that came up is, and you probably covered this a little bit, but there's people that either are getting ready to renew their annual sponsorships, a year-round commitment, or are sitting on some funding from sponsorships. and are looking for guidance, ideas
Mhm.
on ways to tackle that.
First things first, meet with your sponsors. Let them know what amount of what was promised to them is not going to happen. Okay. And then get their feedback. Remember, if they write it, they will underwrite it. Get their feedback on what you think. Oh, sponsor, what do you think we should do with that money? What would you like us to do that would honor your commitment and that would support the needs of our investors and our members? What do you think is the right thing for us to do? We didn't say, I didn't just say, would you like your money back? I didn't just say that, because that's not what they want either. They put that money in to support your organization. Things have changed for you just like they've changed for them. So race to the conflict. If you're not having that conversation because you don't know what to say, awesome. Figure it out in the meeting. Go with an open mind. Go with pen and paper, and that's it. I need your feedback. I need your ideas. And you're not going to craft a solution right then and there in that meeting. You're going to meet with each of your corporate sponsor, your annual sponsor program investors. And I'll tell you, the organizations that are doing this are seeing great results. It's spawning off into community-wide or even regionally, where we're seeing associations and chambers partner together in regions. I saw this in the Coachella Valley. My friend Katie Stice is down there, and she put together this regional coalition of all of these chambers and associations that have this thing in common, this area, and they turned their corporate sponsored annual sponsor program into into this initiative based sponsorship. So it's very, very simple to do. Find the sponsor who helped you start it, who the first one to say yes. Go to them first, out of respect, out of honoring their intention with your program and being first, and tell them that you're coming to them first for that reason. It will reward their initiative.
That's awesome. Well, we have so many questions and
Don't say it.
So little time. Got a long way to go, short time to get there. So what we will do is, first of all, I want to let everyone know I did share a number of links in the chat that lead to resources that help answer a lot of these questions and have some ideas. We will also put those links on the recording page. Additionally, we have a number of resources just available for chambers and associations on the GrowthZone Knowledge Library. Blogging, events, virtual events, you name it, it's out there, and we're always looking for ideas on things that would be helpful to you and your organization. Other links that will be on there, links will be including Kyle's slide deck, the recording, whether or not people attended or had to jump off early or joined us late. So that will be on there, as well as the questions. We may have to get the answers to the questions we may need to send out a little bit later, but we will work out a way to get those to you. And again, on our website, growthzone.com, you can sign up for a group demo or a one-on-one, and that's for chambers and associations, just to get a low pressure look at what we have going on under the hood and how we have helped associations and chambers get through this time. And we've done a lot of custom work on our own product to make sure that we have the resources available. So if you have any other questions, you can of course reach Kyle at kylesexton.com, but you can reach us at marketing@growthzone.com, and keep an eye out for that recording. Hopefully it will be out there tomorrow. We're a little bit at the mercy of Zoom on how that gets there. So I will hand it off to Kyle, who I'm sure will enjoy this chat to see everyone that said hello to him. And I will hand it off to him, and then we will log off and keep an eye out for we have more webinars coming up, and we have something with Kyle planned for December.
Yeah, I'm super excited about what's coming up in December. Super secret right now, so we can't talk about it. But it's something that I've been working on for 15 years, and it's something that GrowthZone has also been working on for quite a while. So we've got some very exciting new initiatives coming out of GrowthZone. It plays very well with all the things that I've been developing in my business to help support chambers and associations to sell more memberships and to serve the communities that you serve. So I love seeing all the chat comments in there. Thank you guys. It's so good to almost see you. I put on my white shirt just for you guys. This is getting dressed up these days. It's still jeans down below, and I know that's probably much the same for all of you guys. Thank you guys. I see all your chats coming in. Thank you for that. Great to see you all. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for contributing your time and your comments. So many of you had some great suggestions in the Q&A and in the chat area. So stay tuned for more, and go serve your members and make something great happen this week. Okay, bye-bye.
Make something great. Have a great one, everyone, and we will see you next time.